Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's technical overview of Goverlan. We'll be doing kind of a high-level overview today, covering a whole bunch of different examples and everything we mentioned in the invite, including supporting users with remote control, Goverlan remote control. It's kind of an advanced remote control. Automating IT, no matter what it is. So, like, we have tons of different automation we can do, from Active Directory work to software deployment and a whole lot more. And then, next thing is Active Directory management made easy, deploying software and patches, and then monitoring some critical infrastructure. So joining me today is Victor Cruz from our support engineering critical infrastructure team, who's going to wow us with some new stuff he's been working on this morning. I'm Ezra, and hopefully you guys will get something good out of today's session. Just going to go through a couple of slides here before we move on. Just a very quick introduction, some about Goverlan. We're established way back in 1998. Originally built for a single large-scale deployment in a Fortune 100 financial institution, and since then, actually the opposite of what most software companies issues is we're scaling down to fit smaller businesses. Because of the nature of the product and our kind of decentralized approach, we've actually done this really nicely, to the point where we're now in over 7,000 companies, 110 countries across 17 industries, and you'll see our reviews and ratings on places like Spiceworks, among others. So we'll run through what Goverlan is, how we sell it. At any point, feel free to ask us questions. The chat is open, the Q&A is open, so definitely interact with us if you choose to. So what is Goverlan? It's a secure way to control, query, and administer machines no matter where they are in the world. That's really what it is. It's we're kind of a console that you can interact with all of your machines, and we provide a whole bunch of tool sets. There's a million different ways of getting all this stuff done. We're just making it a little bit easier. We're a standalone on-premises solution, so you're not talking to the cloud at any point. It's a console that you install on your Windows desktop, and you can see the next line is no dedicated hardware pre-configuration, and it installs on any Windows desktop. So we're not looking at servers or anything like that. If you're testing Goverlan, you need a Windows desktop. That's it. And we're also a framework to support the way you work, and this kind of goes back into that, what we really are is that way to query, control, and communicate with machines. So if you're into PowerShell and scripting, Goverlan's a great way for you to really connect to your machines easily, deploy some PowerShell scripts, stuff like that. If you're into automation, we have a whole bunch of tools. We work nicely with things like Active Directory, Configuration Manager, stuff like that. And then we're an IT framework, so we support, consume, and leverage many different technologies, and we're all about remote. We're all about, keeping techs in their seats, being able to work that way, no desk side visits, no running over to servers to get stuff done. Communicate with all your machines from your Windows desktop. So remote control, remote support, and we do a whole bunch of monitoring. And a lot of this we try and get done without remote control. So we're going to demonstrate remote control first, but then we're going to talk about how you can do a lot of this. I call it 80 to 85% of all the work that we do on a daily basis to support users, we can get done without interrupting them. So without remote control. And again, just going back to the framework messaging, you can see we support a whole bunch of different technologies. We're a Citrix-ready product. We have a proprietary way of shadowing Citrix user sessions. We integrate with Active Directory. We play nicely with SCCM. We almost call ourselves that missing puzzle piece. And we're also a modular product. So you can see we're broken out into different modules. Administration and Diagnostics is our behind-the-scenes support, and then we have remote control. Scope Actions is where all of our global configuration management is going to be, and then we have a free PowerShell scripting tool. It generates some PowerShell or VB scripts based on WMI classes or based on any WMI class or object. Our agents. So all of our communication is done through an agent sitting on those remote machines. And just some quick messaging on them. They're small, stable, secure, and self-managed. So little 5 megabyte files, Self-managed means you can add and deploy them from within the console. They don't have external dependencies, so they're not going to require things like .NET or anything like that. And the installation is completely transparent to the end user. It's not going to cause a restart on their machine or a screen flash or something like that. You can add and remove the agents as many times as you want, and you can see we're going to use port 445 for agent deployment. After the agent is deployed, all communication from the console to that agent uses a single configured by you firewall port, with the default one being 21158. The Goverlan central server. So you're going to see some documentation on that, and we'll talk about it a little bit, but if you're in evaluation mode, this is optional. What it's used for is to distribute policies to those agents on the remote machines. What are policies? It's things like require an end user acceptance when launching a remote control session, or we have a stealth mode, or display a customized banner. And these are just some examples. There's a whole lot more that you can do with the central server. It also audits Goverlan events like remote control session events, if you want to audit the admins, which admin logged into which machine and for how long, and then also Windows login, log out events for your users. And you can see it uses another port for communication. And it's called the central server because it needs to be installed on an always-on machine, but it's really a very lightweight application. You can see its recommended disk space. I think pretty much for most environments, any always-on Windows 7 machine is sufficient, but Victor can speak to that if he wants to, if he chooses. Am I right on that, Victor?
Yes, you're right.
All right, I thought so. Just confirming. We're totally transparent on price. We're priced per operator. So what does that mean? It means if I need remote control on 10,000 machines and I'm the only tech, it's $250. If I have 10 techs that need remote control for 10 machines, it's $250 per tech. So we're always priced per operator, per administrator needing access to the console. So with any license, you can support an unlimited number of nodes or end users or anything like that. So we're not going to get in the way of growth. We're going to scale kind of to the size of your support team, to how many people need access to Goverlan. And then just a little bit on ROI messaging, and we'll share this this slide deck with all of you. But this was an informal poll, kind of formal poll we did for on our customer base. Asked them how much time on average they were spending on things like software deployments and desk side visits before and after Goverlan, and then just looked at calculated savings at $35 an hour, and just tried to figure out, like, in each of these categories. What is Goverlan going to do for you? And just some free stuff we have out there. Just a mention on our 30-day trial is completely unrestricted for 30 days, and it's also fully supported. So as you're working through it, definitely reach out to us with questions. We'll be happy to assist. WMIX is a free solution, and we have a free remote control solution, and I'll explain to you the differences between free remote control and paid. And then some product documentation, and at any point, ask whatever questions you have. And with that, we're going to jump right in. So we're going to start here with Goverlan remote control. And I actually wanted to start with removing an agent from a machine. So this way we can show you kind of the experience of what you're going to have the first time you stand up Goverlan. And so we'll talk about the agents first, just so I can show you how to add and remove the agents. And it's all located in this help, and then you move down to the Goverlan Agent Manager. And it'll open up this wizard, and you start with hitting this little plus sign, and you can choose to add single computers, domain computers, or scan for computers by IP scan. And I'm just going to go and right out of the box, Goverlan's going to integrate with Active Directory. So it's not going to be anything you have to do fancy there. It's just going to wrap around Active Directory, and you'll be able to scroll through your AD forest. And I'm just going to navigate down here and grab some of my production workstations. And I'll add them into the bottom, hit OK. And now it's going to query for the agent status on all these workstations. Now I can very easily just come in here and decide I want to remove the agent or update the agent. And just to mention, some of what we mentioned on the Goverlan central server some of those different policy settings, you can also deploy through the agent manager if you're not using the central server. So you can see I can do things like prompt a local user for approval or lock the workstation or do different things like that when a session starts. There's a lot more control you have in the Goverlan central server. But for now, I'm just going to go and remove the agent off of this machine. And removing the agent, again, doesn't interrupt the end user at all. All it does is simply removes the agent. And now you can see that the agent's no longer on this machine. So all the agents can be managed in kind of an ad hoc fashion as well. So I can decide to just connect to that very same machine, and Goverlan will actually figure out that the agent's not there and just prompt me to install it. So if I connect to this machine here that I just removed the agent from, it's going to say, hey, the agent's not on that machine. What do you want to do? So if you're using Goverlan the first time, you don't have to go and do some mass pre-configuration. You can just, make sure port 445 is available and just connect to a machine by a partial machine name, and it'll just install the agent as you move through. So all I do is hit next, it installs the agent, and then drops me right into that remote control session. And this makes it really easy to get started with Goverlan. And now, part of what you're going to set up in that central server is what the end user is going to see. So in this case, I had that visual notification that disappeared after 10 seconds. But you have a lot of options in there, including require end user acceptance, all the way to the other side where we have a complete stealth mode, where we won't display a visual notification and we won't even run in the tray. Once you're in a remote control session, we're sitting at a lower layer than UAC. And what I mean by that is we're not going to have a problem interacting with UAC prompts. So a lot of remote control products, that UAC prompt that pops up, you can't actually click on it. You have to have the end user click on it. We're sitting at a lower layer than that, so I can click on UAC prompts without issue, and I can, go further than that. I can actually log off as this user, log in as a different user, do a whole lot more, all while maintaining that remote control session. Some tools available to you in remote control includes chat and send messages, a task manager, a file manager, a command prompt, and power options. And all these tools are going to sit outside of your remote control session, giving you like little dedicated space for remote control and not interrupt with the screen. And you can see in power options, I can do things like power off the machine, standby, restart to safe mode, log off the user, and manage auto logins. I can also print, take snapshots, and you can record these remote control sessions. So I can do things like enter into a remote control session in stealth mode and observe only mode, where my mouse and keyboard won't affect the end user, and also record. So we have like a little stealth recording tool built in. And there's also a file transfer. So I can grab local files off my desktop here and just drag them and drop them into designated drop zones. So built-in file transfer as well as a clipboard transfer. And some connection settings available for you, like things like disable client controls, which will shut off the end user's mouse and keyboard, enable an admin mode, or an observe-only mode, which it was just shut off my mouse and keyboard without, my mouse and keyboard movement won't affect the end user. Admin mode puts up a custom message that says, like, your machine's currently being worked on, please wait. And I mentioned remote control session history. So if you want to see which admin logged into which machine, when the session started, when the session ended, and who the console user was, you have that available for all remote control sessions. Now, I'm going to launch another session here, and you can see that we have all different options for remote control. So we connected via the Goverlan protocol, but I can also connect using RDP, VNC, Intel vPro, Command Prompt, or Telnet SSH. So the difference between the paid version of Goverlan remote control and the free version are these premium features, mainly this Goverlan protocol, right? The Goverlan protocol includes all the tools in this ribbon. So in the free version, you can use RDP, you can use VNC, and you can use Telnet SSH, but you'll be limited to what's available in each of those protocols. Now, there's still going to be a lot of features open to you that aren't available to you where you're using the straight RDP client. And I'll show you, one of them is Fast Connect, right? Which is, I can detect a user session in real time. So instead of having to know a machine name, I can actually just know a username. So if I'm looking to support this user, Aaron Woods, I can type in a partial username, set focus on that user, and Goverlan's going to query for where this user has active sessions. And this is available to you no matter what protocol you use. And then I can just choose to connect, and then it's going to, again, connect me right into that remote control session. And you can see this session that Aaron's running has multiple monitors connected, and we have a nice little tool that can switch between them or span across them. And I saw up to 8 monitors connected. I don't know why you need 8, but I saw it, so I know it worked on 8. Once you have multiple remote control sessions open, we offer these really cool monitoring views where I can see both of those sessions open. And what we do here is we'll just reduce the refresh rates a little and also add in heat map performance counters that you can add underneath each machine. And this is great for monitoring your critical infrastructure, or if you want to you have a bunch of different machines you're working on, you can very quickly move between the 2 of them. Double click on each screen, it takes you into the one-on-one session. And you can add as many as you like here. Now, Goverlan will also work on work group machines. They don't have to be, it doesn't have to be Active Directory machines. And for work group machines, we offer favorites. And here I can just add in, and this is great for Active Directory as well, because I can add in an AD container, a static container, or an IP subnet range, and this will just give you quick access to machines you want to work on. So if I need to connect to this thin client, I can quickly establish another connection, and there you go, I'm connected to that thin client. So, if you have just work group machines, you'll store them all out as favorites and just double click on them and you'll connect to them. But also over here, I can also open up multiple remote control sessions at once, and this is just expanding that monitoring view out a little bit. And you can see here I have a whole bunch of machines open. Once you set up one of these layouts the way you like it, let's say it's your critical servers or the most annoying end users you're having to interact with, you can click Save Layout, save it as an icon on your desktop, call it critical servers or employee monitoring or something like that. Double click on that icon, it'll open up this same group of machines the same way every single time. So really just, again, enables you to have, access to critical machines very quickly. Just making sure everybody's good on remote control here, and please feel free to send us a message on chat or Q&A or anything like that. And we're going to move on, and we're going to show you how, instead of using remote control sessions to support our users, even though this remote control tool is obviously great, I don't need to know machine names. I can search for a user by name, map me to their active sessions. By the way, it works on Citrix and RDP sessions as well, using proprietary shadowing. We have all the things like file transfer, clipboard transfer, recording, so definitely full-featured, but we're going to try and change the paradigm a little, change the way we actually do support using Goverlan administration and diagnostics. And that's what we're going to look at next here. And so now I've jumped back into the Goverlan suite. And what I'm going to do here is start with this Active Directory search on the right-hand side here. And there's a little tip on how search works, but it's fully integrated search. I can do things like wildcards on a partial machine name and find that vPro machine that's sitting out there. I can do partial usernames. I can do anything I'd like to try and drill in. I can even do Active Directory queries like department equals IT. We're going to continue picking on Aaron. So I'm going to set focus on Aaron here, and it's going to navigate through Active Directory and drop me into the OU that contains that user, right? So that's all I've done so far is I search for Aaron and I set focus on him. And by the way, this module can be used on workgroup machines as well. You just store those machines as favorites in the Computers tab down here. So all I would do is, I can have all of those same favorite machines right in here, and then you can still use administration and diagnostics, and I'll show you that in just a moment. So back here on Aaron, we can access Aaron's account. Here's his Active Directory account. I can do things like unlock his account and change his password, use logon scripts and home directories. jump into groups. I can add, remove, import, and export. And there's if you need to do some very quick group management, like Aaron needs access to Group B, I mean, it's really, really very straightforward to get that done. All I do is add it and hit apply, and my changes are saved, and now his groups are updated. And if you click this Show Effective Membership, we have some really very, very cool compliance reports in here. And one of them is going to show you the recursion on your groups, that, how that group inheritance is working. So why is Aaron a part of Group A? And you can see it's because he's a part of domain admins and the pseudo group and Group B. And then in account statistics, we'll take a look at successful logon count, password age. We can view and manage the domain password and account lockout policies. And login history is going to show us a log of where Aaron logs in and out over a course of time. And this is not a Windows log, this is a Goverlan log. And we're actually using this to populate our next feature, which we saw already, that logged in workstation detection. So anytime a user initiates a session on a machine, it's just adding to that log file, and that's what enables us to offer this feature. Now, once we found the machine we want to support Aaron on, we can expose the admin in Diagnostics toolset. And instead of using remote control, if Aaron is having an issue with anything here, I can do this behind the scenes. So let's say, Aaron's machine is running a little hot. I don't need a remote control session to see what's going on his machine. I just double click on the task manager. I can see what applications are running. I can see what processes are running. And this is actually a super task manager, so you can see things like process parent relationships. We'll also show you the top 5 talkers in real time, which is just the top 5 things going on in each of these categories. And then the other thing we added in is hover states on these performance charts. So if a machine's peaking and you want to figure out what's going on with it, you can just hover over it and you'll see exactly what the deal is. Now, all these other tools, again, are all pretty much native Windows. So, the device manager, native Windows, if you know how to refresh a driver today, you can do it in Goverlan too. The big difference between using administration in Diagnostics and a desk side visit or remote control is administration in Diagnostics is real time behind the scenes, but it's also permissioned as you. So what happens is that Goverlan acts as an impersonation engine. So we'll always impersonate the role of the admin sitting behind the console. So you're not going to have to, log off the user, log in as a different user, do some run as, or enter your credentials or anything like that. It's going to be already permissioned as you. And it's a good time to mention our credentialing manager, which is a great tool to supply alternate credentials to Goverlan. So if you want to say, when you're accessing these computers or servers, IP ranges, or domains, instead use these credentials instead of mine, Goverlan will do that. And it'll work as you navigate through different machines. It'll look at the credentialing manager first, see if it has an alternate credential to use, then roll to your credentials and your permissions in your Windows environment, and then finally prompt you. So managing Windows updates, again, native look and feel, same for printers and drive mapping, so not a whole lot to learn. In software products, we will deploy software for you. So we'll deploy MSI or EXE files. And all you have to do to build out one of these software packages for the first time is decide what you're deploying, either an MSI or an EXE. MSIs are always deployed silently and behind the scenes, so we won't interrupt that end user. For EXEs, you just give it a name and a description, and you can put it in a category or a folder, help keep things organized. And then just point us to where this package is located. And this is an area where Goverlan gets kind of interesting, because you can decide, hey, I just want to set up a file share, somewhere that I'm gonna send out all my deployments from. Or you can say, you know what, I already use SCCM and I have this deployment server set up, and I have all these folks that go out and verify all the patches and work with them, but I need to give something to my level 1 team to kind of use. You can point us at those same deployment packages that are on your SCCM server or somewhere else. And then this way, kind of everybody's working on the same page. Everybody's using those same deployment packages. Now, for EXEs, you do have to provide some argument strings for unattended or silent installation, just so you can deploy these packages in real time without interrupting the user. And you'll see as I move through here, I can click on Quicktime 7, which is going to be one of our examples. You shouldn't have this installed on any of your machines, according to the Department of Homeland Security, I think. You can see that when I click on it, aside from deploying software, I can also repair or remove software. So if I want to repair an application or remove an application, and you can see if I click on properties, we're storing things like product code and giving you access to that. So we'll have some really nice inventory reports that we can put together for you. So, you know, this is the kind of basics of administration and diagnostics. Not really a whole lot not really a whole lot to learn. Really, almost all native Windows. You can also send pop-ups and chats to your end user. But maybe we want to go a step further and try and say, you know what, native Windows is not quite enough. You know, we need something a little bit more, and that's where custom actions come into play. Now, custom actions allows me to sequence events or actions and kind of run them in order, and it also gives me a lot of access to really anything on a machine state that you can think of. And so we're going to look at some quick examples here, and we'll actually go and build something from scratch just to start. You can see I have a whole bunch saved, and I mean, I actually have a lot saved in here and all different folders and stuff, but we'll just go and build a quick report just as a proof of concept of some stuff you can do with custom actions. So we'll just call this a quick inventory report. And to build a custom action, by the way, you're giving it a name. We're targeting machines here. I'm going to put this in my demo prep folder. And all I'm going to do is hit this Add New button. And from here, I can hit Add Remove, and I'm offered a choice of reporting on a computer property, setting a computer property, or executing a computer action. I just want to do a quick report, so I'm going to go and report a computer property, and anything I check off in here just becomes a column heading. So maybe I want to see this computer's identity information, like the model, the manufacturer, the chassis, the serial number, and then I want to see like some OS level info, you know, what software is deployed on this machine, maybe the architecture as well, and the IE version. And then maybe I want to see, you know, what software is installed on this machine, so the product name, version, and product code, and install date. And then I want to see who uses this machine. So I'm going to see the user login, logout times. And just checked off a whole bunch of just different information, and hit OK. And my custom action is going to be created and ready for use. Just hit OK one more time, and you can see it got created. And I know I put it in my demo prep folder, which was probably a mistake because I have a lot of stuff in here. Here it is, my quick inventory report. All I do now is double click on it and it's going to run. Okay, so we're just going to run that, and it's going to go and process against that machine, and it just opened for me in right here. So here's all my identity information. You can see that this machine is a VMware machine, and I have my serial number, and I have my you know, OS information, what version of Windows, the architecture, and the IE version. And I also have all the software deployed on this machine with all those product codes. And then down here, I have all my user login and logout events. Now, I don't have a good use for this report. Maybe I'm just going through some hardware replacement, but just as a proof of concept, you can see how quickly it is to kind of drill through a machine and gather a whole bunch of information. And if you can think of it in a user or machine state, we can report on it. So, you know, this was just very quick, some random info, but we'll go through a whole bunch of examples here of different things we can report on. Now, aside from reporting on things, we can also deploy software. So in this case, we have like patching Salesforce for Outlook. And this is a good example of a patch you may have to deploy that's not that straightforward, because I have to make sure Outlook is closed, and I have to make sure the plugin is closed, and then deploy the plugin, and then restart the plugin. So as opposed to visiting each machine and performing all these actions, I can build it out once in the wizard, and then you can see it's going to run through each one of these steps. So in this step, it's just going through and it's terminating a process, and then I'm just supplying it the process name. And then when I deploy my patch, all I'm doing here is executing a computer action, deploying a piece of software, installing a software package. And it's those same packages we were looking at before. Here's my package that I built out already, and it's just going to go and deploy that. And then it's just going to restart that process for me afterwards. So I can have Goverlan restart a process as well. And whatever I want to kind of do and configure, I just build out it using the wizard, and I can reorganize it however I see fit. And this really helps with you know, kind of the cumbersome work we have to do. You know, I've seen some good examples for malware fixes. If, you know, some malware spreading around your company, you can just build out the fix in here once, you hear of an issue, you run it against the machine. Obviously, you know, quick patches, any kind of thing you want to do in an ad hoc fashion, this works really nicely for. So let's go a bit further in here. Let me just make sure we're covering our points in the demo. So we talked about supporting users with advanced remote control, and we're talking about automating a little here. So, you know, the idea behind automation is if I do something once, I never want to have to do it again. And you kind of saw that with the patching Salesforce for Outlook. You know, you build it once, you know it's going to work, you test it against one machine, and it's saved for you. If you want to run this against this machine, those same custom actions are all available for you against all the machines in your environment. So build something once, don't ever do it again. We're going to get into scheduling things, and we're also going to get into running things conditionally. So finding a condition that exists and then responding to that, because that's really at its core what automation is. Before we do, we want to talk a little bit about Active Directory management. So you saw these custom actions work really nicely against a machine, but we also have them available to us to use against a user. And here we'll do something real quick, and that's just to terminate an employee. So here is a kind of an area where IT and HR interact, and these interactions happen, you know, late on Friday afternoons. And so kind of visualizing what this process is going to look like, sitting down with the with the HR team and saying, what are the expectations for when an employee gets terminated, whether it's on good terms or bad terms. Let's just build out that process. Let's decide what you're going to want to see, what you're going to want to have happen, and this way we can automate it. We can have, and you know, your checks and balances are done every single time. And we have a small example here of removing some group memberships and running a couple of reports, but I can tell you I've talked to some customers that do things like, export users' mailboxes as PSDs, clean up all their roaming profiles, do a whole lot more, transfer files to other machines. If you can think of it, you can do it. You just have to decide what you want to do. So in our case, we're going to run a group membership report, and I'll just quickly show you what each one of these look like. Here it's just groups, and we're going to show me where this user, which groups this user is a member of. We're going to log the user off all their current sessions, and we can put up a warning message like this, the system is about to log you off. We can tell them, please report to HR as well if we need to. We're going to run a login history report, show me where this user has had activity. We'll do some Active Directory cleanup, like set their account to disabled, set their password to expired, and move them to an inactive OU. And again, all this stuff is very straightforward. So you can set user properties in here. You actually have complete access to the ADC from here, so you can bring in any Active Directory attribute and update it. And then you can also execute user actions and decide to move an object to a different OU. And then we'll remove this user's groups. So I'm going to run this quickly against our user Amy. And again, this is just going to run through that sequence of steps, and it happens quickly. And we'll get our two reports here. So our user login events and our group membership report. And then when we refresh here, that user is gone, right? So where did that user go? So let's just search for them quickly. We have a lot of Amy's. And we'll just set focus on Amy, and it's going to, again, navigate through Active Directory, and we can see that Amy now ended up in that terminated users folder. And just as easily as I terminated Amy, I can reprovision Amy, unterminate, reinstate, whatever we want to call it. And here it just does the reverse of what we just saw. But here you can really get into some cool automation. If you're going through a lot of employee onboarding and bringing in new employees, you know, clicking through Active Directory users and computers is a huge headache and can take hours of your time. You know, building out kind of provisioning templates. This is what a sales user looks like. This is what an IT user looks like, and just have them all saved. You know, you have like a little employee provisioning folder, and you just pick which one you want to run against that user. So here we're just going to reinstate Amy quickly, and Amy is now gone. And when we set focus on Amy again, yeah, I guess I got to research. There we go. Set focus on Amy again. You can see that she is back in Miami IT users, and her account is completely reinstated with groups added back in. So really something that simple, really automate a lot of your Active Directory work. So now we can go even a step further and do bulk management. So obviously this is not the most efficient way of getting things done, but if we had 10 employees to terminate or 10 employees to provision, we can do that really quickly using scope actions. Scope actions is the same as administration and diagnostics in the custom action section. It's just with added layers. The first layer is going to be targeting. I can target multiple users, computers, or groups. So, you know, just as easily as I added one user or terminated one user, I can choose to add multiple users or terminate multiple users. The other layers that we add in are scheduling and repeating tasks and a little bit more. So let's look at some examples of things you can do with scope actions here. Let me just refer back to my notes, just make sure we're covering everything. So yeah, so the first one would be deploying software and patches. So this becomes really, really easy. So obviously we showed you can deploy software using Goverlan administration and diagnostics. If just our user Aaron needed a piece of software deployed, I search for Aaron, navigate to his machine, open up software products, all my deployment packages are available for me. But let's say I needed to deploy software against multiple users at once. Just as easy, I can say, you know, deploy Quicktime. I don't recommend you do this now because obviously it's not recommended. And now here I'm offered the chance to target users, computers, or groups. So here I'm deploying software, so I'm going to target computers. I just hit add new, and I can add a container or domain, an AD site, IP range, input an object, or input a file or individual objects. So here it's just Active Directory. I can navigate through, grab some production workstations, and decide this is where I want to deploy Quicktime to. I hit next, and very straightforward. It's that same wizard, execute computer actions, navigate down to software products, install a package, grab the package I want to deploy, and hit OK. And then just navigate through. I can choose to run it now. I can choose to run it later. I can run it on a schedule. I can repeat a schedule as well. So, and here's where it gets kind of cool. So let's say you're doing a software deployment or patching or something like that. And you want to make sure that you're not interrupting your users. But you also want to make sure that all of your machines get patched. You can do things kind of in an interesting way. You can say, keep on running until all the nodes I'm targeting are processed, right? And then run it on a recurring basis and make sure that there's no logged in user when I'm running. So I can decide to run this, you know, every day. I can decide to run this daily at 9 a.m. and just make sure that there's nobody logged in or set whatever time. So very versatile. You can create whatever kind of schedule you want to deploy any type of software patch, Windows update, anything like that. And it really becomes kind of trivial. Now, so I like to kind of jump forward and say, okay, let's get to something that's not as trivial. So, you know, we have our Quicktime example here, right? So now, we have some concerns with Quicktime right now. Obviously, it's not recommended to be installed. So we can go a step further, and aside from just adding software or deploying patches, we can also report on literally anything. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a quick report for any machine that has Quicktime installed. So all I do to create that report is I'm going to come in here and grab just computer name, because that's what I want in my report. And as a condition, I want to set only show me machines that have software product with a product name that contains Quicktime. Now, on top of just notifying me that Quicktime is installed on that machine, I may want to notify the end user that they have an unapproved application installed on their machine as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up a quick remote control session on this machine that I have Quicktime installed on, and just so we can see what's going on both sides. Let me close this out. So you can see Quicktime is installed right here. So we're going to mess around with Quicktime, and this is obviously, you know, a good example to be talking about right now. Oh, 1 second, let me just get organized here. And so when we go and we run this this Quicktime scope action, what we expect to have happen is just a report that shows me that it's installed on this machine, and then we want a little pop-up on this machine just letting the user know that, hey, the security team knows that they have an uninstalled application. And you can see that's exactly what happened. So we got our notification that Quicktime is installed on this machine, and my report popped up right here that, you know, Longhorn 2 has Quicktime installed. Now we can go a step further and say, you know, now that I detected Quicktime and I know that it's installed on Longhorn 2, maybe I want to remove it as well. And this is where things get cool, because you can go a step further and say, you know, I can come in here and I can say uninstall Quicktime at the same time. So now we're going to just add in another thing that says uninstall Quicktime, another action. So here I'm just going to execute computer action, move down to software products, and just uninstall instance. And you can see this little warning pops up that says, when you're using uninstall instance, let Goverlan know which application you want it to uninstall. So I'm just going to say product name contains Quicktime. Okay, so we just edited that action, and again, we're targeting a whole OU of workstations, and then we're just adding in a little bit of action to notify the user, and then also to uninstall the app. Sorry, I'm having problems with, there we go, that's what I wanted to have happen. Okay, so now we're gonna rerun this now, and now we should see that pop up again, and then we should go a step further and see Quicktime just disappear. And there it goes. So I can go a step further, and I can, you know, aside from deploying software, I can detect unapproved software and then automatically remove it. So, and it was really that straightforward. We kind of built this all out on the fly. So, if you wanted to run this on a recurring basis, I can decide, hey, every morning 9 a.m., go out there, scan my environment for this unapproved software, whether it's Quicktime or Dropbox or anything like that, and then automatically remove it. Now, another use case we run into quite often is if you want to find machines that are missing a piece of software and automatically install it, like Adobe Reader. Maybe you want to make sure all the machines in your environment have Adobe Reader, and things happen over time, and you know, for some reason Adobe Reader is missing. So here what I'm doing is again, I'm looking at computer name, and I'm trying to find machines that don't contain Adobe Reader. And here you have to use this little set scope button and look for all instances instead of only one. So you're just going to have to make a little adjustment there, but there's a good tutorial online about how to do this exact thing. And when I run this, I'm going to get a list of machines that are missing Adobe Reader. So before we found machines that had QuickTime, now we're finding machines that are missing an application. And you can see I have 2 machines that don't have Adobe Reader installed. So I'm just trying to show you kind of the versatility of Goverlan. It kind of works just, you know, you get used to the wizard, and then really you can build out whatever reports you want, and things happen very quickly, all in real time. Now, I'm going to kick this over to Mr. Victor Cruz, who has a little demo set up for us on monitoring servers and critical infrastructure. I'm sure you're all a little sick of hearing from me from now, and I could use a break anyway. So, Victor, you want to take over?
Yeah. All right. So, basically, what do you want to give a little intro to how we're going to start off and what we're going to get into, at least into the monitoring of the specific app?
Yeah.
Or
yeah, just run with it, because I really have no idea what you're about to show. And just a little note on monitoring servers and critical infrastructure. We are going to dedicate almost a full hour to this next Friday. We're building out the content now. So there's, you know, Goverlan can not only report on anything you saw in those menus and menus. I didn't really click through it that much because I don't want to overwhelm the audience too much in one session. But, I mean, there is menus and menus of information in here. On top of that, we can pull in any WMI object. So if you can really think of it in a computer state, we can report on it. And once we can report on it, we can set up conditions and then set it on a recurring schedule to monitor it. Once we can monitor it, we can then remediate at the same time, because you saw, like, just like I can detect QuickTime and then automatically remove it, I can monitor for hard disk space and then deploy a PowerShell script or move around files and folders or do things so that I don't have to run back from lunch. So it's all about IT automation. It's all about remediation. So go ahead, Victor.
Cool. So basically what we're going to look into is using scope actions and turning them into an automated process. Because Goverlan, as you know, is ad hoc in nature. So what we're going to basically do is we're going to set up a scope action that's going to monitor a specific service on a server. In this case, we're going to use a Goverlan central server. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go to one of the example servers that we're going to use. So in this case, it is Lab SRV2K12. It is one of our demo servers here. I'm just going to go ahead and remote control it. Actually, you know what? We'll just leave it like this. So I'm going to open up services, and I'm going to go down to the service that we're going to monitor. In this case, I want to monitor the Goverlan Central Server service. So I'm going to right-click it, just make sure. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy or just remember the actual name itself. In this case, I know it's Gov Central Server, and I can see that it's on and started. So what we're going to do is we're going to first create the scope action here, and I'm just going to call it monitor Goverlan Central Server service. Okay, you can set a category if you like. In this case, I'll just put monitoring. And here I'm just going to go ahead and hit add new and just add the server I want to monitor. In this case, lab. I'm lazy, so I don't type in everything out. Just use the wildcard search there, added that one. And finally, we're going to go into the action. Now, this is going to consist of 2 parts. All right. The first part that we need to do is create the condition, which is the part below. And what we want to create the condition is, the first condition we want to create is the service name, because we need to tell Goverlan what name we're trying to monitor. So the condition will first be the service name that we're going to put is equal to, and that's going to be the exact service name as reported in the properties. So in this case, it was Gov Central Server. And then the second state I want to monitor is, the second thing I want to monitor is the state itself. So in this case, I'm going to put status, and I'm going to put not equal to starting. So down here, we're telling Goverlan what is the if statement, basically. This is the if statement. So if any of this information is true, perform any of the actions that are up here in the upper area. So in this case, we're telling it, if this machine has a service name by the name of Gov Central Server, which obviously that's true because it has it, and if this service status is not equal to started, which we're going to go ahead and replicate right now, perform whatever action is listed up here. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and hit execute. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Goverlan execute any of these actions that I want. In this case, the action that I wanted to execute is send me an email. And what I wanted to do is I want to send it to my email address. So in this case, it's victor.cruz@goverlan.com. And the from email, I'm just going to put Goverlan notifications. Goverlan.com. Okay. And in the subject, this is where we get a little bit more into the dynamic features of Goverlan and how versatile it is. So we're going to go ahead and instead of just typing in any normal subject, we're going to use something called a dynamic value definition. And what dynamic value definition is it's basically any combination of static text and other attribute values that Goverlan, using its various power and control over its machines, can include into any type of statement, should we say. So in this case, I'm going to put warning. The Goverlan Central Server service has changed from started on, and then in this case, I'm just going to hit insert, and now we're going to go ahead and be able to access all of the dynamic information that Goverlan can access using its agent. And all I'm going to do is NT account name. So what's great about this is that now I'm making this specific subject universal to whatever machine that I put in the scope. So if I put 7 servers in there, it'll automatically use the dynamic values you can see here to specify whatever server name was selected in the scope. So we're just going to go ahead and put that there and hit OK. And then the email body, I'm just going to put, please check the server. Here, I'm going to put in our SMTP. And that's pretty much it. And we do also support TLS encryption, so if you can use any type of account that supports either, standard SMTP or with or without TLS. And that's pretty much it. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and hit OK. And then the part that's basically going to make Goverlan automated or make this action automated is our scheduling options. So in this case, I can tell it to run now, or in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and put run later and hit finish. Now we're going to go ahead and right click this, and I want to set it to a schedule. Now here, I can configure what I want it to run as. In this case, if you want, go ahead and Ezra, if you can, type in your password for me. Done? You think you got it wrong again? You got it? All right, cool. And in this case, we're just going to have it in this case, we're going to set the execution mode. Now, we have 3 different execution modes. The first is reset historical data and rerun on all nodes. In this case, I wouldn't want to reset the historical data because we want to keep a nice little log history of when this specific action has been tripped. So we're going to just keep the historical data, and we're going to rerun on all nodes. Another cool feature we have here is to keep running until all nodes are processed. Obviously, this is a monitoring action, so we're not going to be using this, but this is basically to keep running on every single node until any node that was failed, for example, any type of failure that is reported, it'll keep running until all of those nodes are processed, but that can be explained in another event. So in this case, we're just going to use keep historical data and rerun on all nodes. And then we're just going to send, here we're not going to set any of these post-execution options because we already set the action to send us an email inside of the action. So we don't need to worry about, because this right here, this email area is just to provide an email notification on the success or on the confirmation of this action running, should we say. So in this case, we don't need to worry about that. And then here we're going to put the schedule. Now, obviously, if we're monitoring a service on our servers, we want this to continuously run. So in this case, you know, you can go ahead and set it to whatever you like. For my preference for this specific service is I need to repeat this every 5 minutes, basically. And for here, I'm just going to give the action about a 15 minute, actually I'm going to give it about 6 minutes in total to run. So every 5 minutes, it's going to execute the action, and it's going to give that action 6 minutes to run. Once it's done, it'll stop the action, and it'll initiate it again after 5 minutes. And that's pretty much it. Or you can even set it to repeat the task every minute, if you like, and let it last for about 3 minutes. And that's pretty much it. Here is where we're going to go ahead and put daily, and that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. So what that's going to do is it's going to go ahead and run it every minute from 9 a.m. on this day for 3 minutes every day starting at 4:22. So what happens is that it'll keep running, and then the next day that you come in, it'll run, it'll keep running throughout the day until 9 a.m. of the next day, and then just keep restarting again from there. Now, in this case, what I'm going to purposefully do is I'm going to go to this server, and I'm going to stop this service. Goverlan Central Server, as you can see, I'm going to stop it. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close this, and I'm just going to hit run. Now what it's going to do, it's going to go ahead and run on the machine. And the thing about the Goverlan agent, just to give you a little breakdown while this is running, is the agent is dormant and does not do any of these tasks until the Goverlan console pushes or sends an action to these agents. So this constant monitoring and constant action is not occurring on the agent side. The agent doesn't have the schedule set. The agent isn't responsible for, you know, constantly making sure that it's on schedule. It's all done directly from the console. So once this, if this is not scheduled or if it's not run, then it's not automated and it's not there pending on the agent end. And this is where we want to keep that guise of giving Goverlan here we go. I actually send the email to my own email address, so I'm going to have to share my screen as well. But this is where you keep the control of Goverlan, where Goverlan is always going to be ad hoc in nature, but it is so versatile that you can turn it into an automated tool, for example, a monitoring tool. And you can use this from a plethora of things. It doesn't have to necessarily just be a service. It can be if an application is installed or removed. So you can say, for example, set condition, where the software name, for example, software products, name, let me remove these two here, just to give you an example. Name contains Adobe Reader. And according to compliance, you need to always have this app on the specific machine. So it has to have product name contains Adobe Reader. And that's pretty much it. And it'll perform any action that you do here. Or you can actually put doesn't contain. Actually, in this case, if it needs to be on the machine, doesn't contain. So if Goverlan goes to any of the machines that you put into the scope and this condition is true, it'll go ahead and execute any action. So it's just an example of how versatile Goverlan is, and you can use this type of automation to do a lot more things that you need to do instead of just centering it around monitoring your servers, for example. So just waiting about another minute here for the email to come in. You're on mute, I think, if you're talking.
Also, one or two quick reports here while we're waiting for that one to finish up. And it did show process on my end.
That's what
I think I got my credentials wrong. I think that's the issue. Okay. So one or two quick things, and this is something that came up recently. Is this the one I want? Let's just see. So we mentioned how we're reporting on logged in users, and you saw the two halves of, well, I showed you one half of the report, which is a user's login history. We also store that same detail against machines. So in this case, I can target a group of machines, and I can pull in a user login history, who uses this machine, which is a good piece of information to know, right? And if I run this, I'm going to see, hey, out of all these machines, who logs in and out of them, and all I get is a list of machines, and I click into each one, and I'll see all my log in, log out events.
I just got the
Oh, okay. If you want to forward it to me, I'll put it up on the screen. We also will show you the other half of this same thing, which is I have this list of users. Show me where they log in and out of, because we can target both users and computers. So here I'm going to show you a list of machines that this user has login events on, and just to show you again that versatility where you can really configure reports in any which way you want. And this is kind of where you have which makes Goverlan kind of unique, is that there's nothing canned in here, but the wizard is pretty straightforward, simple enough to use. We have tons of these videos and tutorials on all different topics. Today was kind of a general overview, but we have some very specific ones. And so here, by the way, this report just finished, and here's showing me my user login, log out event. So I can see, like for Aaron, where does he have login and log out events, including whether it was a remote control session, something like that.
I'm going to share the email here real quick, just so everybody can see it.
Go ahead.
I'll share it on my end. Can you see the actual email?
Yep.
All right, so as you can see here, this is an example of the email right here. We got the exactly who we put it from, and here's the dynamic information that you see that Goverlan automatically populated. It put in our information, our general message of warning, the Goverlan Central Service has changed from started. Well, I was supposed to add to stopped, but I didn't. To stopped on the actual server that we inserted into the scope. And if we have multiple,
cool that you can get the exact current status of the service as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you can continue, and you can even add more information in here. So if you just want it to also give you statuses on other services, for example, if you want to start sharing back your screen again.
There you go. Okay.
So you can finish up here. So you can add more dynamic information to the actual email body. So if you want to include, for example, let me go into the body. Let me hit set dynamic value. So we can say another service. You can actually say service status is, and then in this case you hit insert, and then you go down to services, and then you just put in status. So if it's hung, if it's stopped, or anything that state, if you want to get the exact state that it's in, then you can go ahead and put that in there. So just in case you want to get even more dynamic information on the machine.
And again, you can also remediate at the same time. So aside from just getting notifications, you can decide to restart the service or perform some other task as well.
Exactly. So in this case, if you already know, guaranteed, that you have a service that always stops, for example, there's a whole bunch of different apps out there, and a simple restart is all you need, then Goverlan is going to be the golden thing for you, because then, remember, everything that's true down here, we're telling Goverlan to perform this specific action. So we can piggyback on that and hit execute, and then we can go to services, and we just restart a service, and we give it the name.
And that's what it's all about, is having that remediation so that we don't, anytime an alert goes off, we don't have to jump onto a server or run back from lunch. We know that, Goverlan has us covered, and we can go and take a look at what's going on as soon as we get a chance.
Yeah, and that's the guys, generally behind Goverlan is that, we want to take out the standard things that we have to do all the time over and over again, like changing properties of printers or restarting a service, like these simple tasks. Unfortunately, given that everything's GUI based, we have to go in, we have to click our server, we have to remote control, and all that takes an extra 5–10 minutes. You add that up from a server that's doing this all the time, and that takes a lot of time away from, your productivity. So, Goverlan is extremely versatile, and since it taps into WMI and the back end of Windows generally, you can use that ability and its abilities to be able to make it more versatile and turn it into an automated system, if you like, and just really help you be able to streamline a lot of the things that you have to do as an IT guy, because we have so many hats all the time. We always have so many different responsibilities. It isn't always just, the direct thing, so.
All right, Victor, I like that one. Well, just want to thank everyone for joining us, and obviously if you have questions, feel free to chime in or send us an email at any point. We're always happy to help. Remember, your trial periods are fully functional, and our support team is on standby to assist with anything you need. Thanks so much for joining us today. Hope you all have a great weekend. Hopefully you learned something, and this was a good demo, and that's about it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.